Hello, everyone. I'm Rhonda Coleman. I'm an attorney working as a deal strategist here at Google. I also have a podcast where I talk with professional women about their journeys to success. You can find me at rhondacolemanwandell.com. Welcome to this roundtable. I will be your moderator. Today, we'll be talking to three exceptional entrepreneurs about their journeys through entrepreneurship. First, we'll talk to Jason Campbell of Brand B Sports, a sports marketing agency that represents professional talent. And then we'll talk to co-founders Jimmy Law and Gerald DeSanti of Game On Active, a mobile sports facility booking app that functions like an Airbnb for sports facilities. I'm excited to get into it with our special guest today. First up to bat is Jason Campbell.
How's it going, Rhonda? Thank you for having me, and shout out to the Black Google Network of Chicago for putting this all together.
Hey, Jason, I'm so excited to have you on. Excited to explore your journey through entrepreneurship today. I know you're just going to have so many golden nuggets of information to share with our listeners. All right, so first, we're going to get into what Brand B Sports is, what it's all about, but can in 20 seconds tell us what Brand B Sports is before we start?
Sure. So we're a sports marketing agency based out of Chicago that provides brand strategy and personal branding strategy for professional athletes across the entire sports spectrum. So from NBA, MLB to NASCAR, yes, NASCAR, NHL, and now golf. We really specialize in helping our clients, leverage their celebrity and effectuate change in their communities. And now recently, the last 4 years, we've been started to work on social impact strategy for some of the world's top companies and Fortune 100 companies.
Okay, incredible. So I read something that said that your peers consider you to be a true rose that grew from the concrete. So when I speak to guests, I like to kind of start with the beginning and your background. So you're from Chicago. Can you tell us why your peers would call you a true rose from the concrete?
Well, I'm from Chicago, specifically the south side of Chicago, and even more importantly, the Englewood neighborhood. And Englewood is one of probably the most challenged neighborhoods economically, just crime-wise in the entire country. So when I talk to people and they see that I come from that environment, they're really kind of shocked, for lack of a better term. But more importantly, it's also important to understand that Englewood is rich with talent and different individuals and diversity that just needs to be amplified and nurtured. And so, that's kind of one of the reasons why I do these type of conversations. But yes, I am from the south side of Chicago, Englewood.
Nice. So now let's get into Brand B. Now, when did you get the idea to start a sports marketing agency? But before you answer that question, I want to brag on you a little bit because you're probably not going to do this yourself. But you used to play basketball with President Barack Obama, and he offered you a stellar endorsement for this business. So shout out to you for that. So yeah, how did you get the idea to start Brand B?
Well, one of the things that was really important at FAMU is identifying mentors. And one of my marketing professors said, learn what your passion is and then further learn how to monetize it. So when I came back to Chicago after working for one of the top 3 global companies in the world, I started a non-for-profit with a friend of mine named Swiss Dreams. And so we would focus on education, basketball, and mentorship. And we would have a lot of the basketball players from the area come talk to the kids. And I just realized that there was a void in representation for brown and black athletes. And so that really sparked me to start Brand B, primarily working on community engagement, but realizing with this breadth of and wealth of network from, going to FAMU and different other areas that, hey, I had a lot of brand relationships. So we leveraged the, community engagement for our clients to partner them with brands that were looking to amplify their products and things like that. So.
Okay, so you talk about your FAMU network and how you leverage that to grow your business. Can you give us some examples of how you've done that?
Well, specifically, I have a lot of relationships within sports through the FAMU network, and I tell people all the time, FAMU is going to FAMU is like investing in a multi-billion-dollar brand and network, and that's why you go there. And so we have relationships with Pepsi through my FAMU network, Google, obviously, and then other tech companies, big tech companies across the globe. And that's really helped us really connect the dots for our clients, both our professional athlete clients, as well as from a social impact strategy perspective, like McDonald's and the Chicago Blackhawks and other companies that we work for.
Okay, so it sounds like you've been very intentional with this business because you said you go to FAMU for that awesome network. And I also heard you say that figure out what your passions are and learn how to monetize them. So
Yes.
when you made the decision to go to FAMU because it had that amazing network, did you already kind of know you wanted a career in sports? Did you know what your
No,
passions were?
No, and that's one of the things that I tell young people all the time that I mentor is, be patient with yourself. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to FAMU. I was a criminal justice major, but FAMU has a robust school of business and industry. So I was like, hey, I can really take my creative abilities and apply it to a marketing career. And so, that was kind of what started me out on that path. And then, I started working in global marketing and branding for 3M, then came back to Chicago, started working for Johnson & Johnson in a similar capacity, and then really started to hone my skills from a marketing global branding perspective, which came really in handy because, we are a global company and we are able to activate in just about whatever country our clients need us to.
Okay, I love that. I love that you gave yourself room to grow and develop. You've acknowledged that you're a 360 individual. You continue to grow, you continue to change, and you were ready to pivot when you needed to pivot.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. All right. So brand B, how it seems like when I read about you and your interactions with your clients, you're doing more than just building their brand. You are a certified life coach, right?
Hmm.
It seems like you've discovered that there is a connection between long-term financial success and spiritual development or growth or
Sure.
taking care. Can you talk to us a bit about that? How did you make that discovery? When did you start to implement that type of strategy into your work with your clients?
Sure. So my passion is mentoring. A lot of people talk about discovering their purpose. My purpose is mentorship and leadership development. I know that, and I've actually known that part since I was about 17, 18. Just having an impact on others and really pouring into other people. And that's why I started Brand B. So I've known that from the beginning. I wanted to take my, experience in marketing and also my passion for mentoring and fuse the two together so to help set athletes up for long-term success. And we've been able to do that. And I think that's one of the things that separates us from any other sports marketing agency or athlete representation company is that any client that you talk to will let you know that, we really pour in to the client off the court and outside of the sport. So really helping them understand what their purpose is in the community, but more importantly, setting them up again for long-term success financially, community engagement wise, and a host of other things that are important to actually building up a person long-term.
Awesome. So mentorship, what are your personal experiences with mentorship throughout your career?
Well, I've had some great mentors in the past growing up in Englewood. You don't really have a lot of exposure to professional people. So one thing that, my mother made sure that I understood was the power of one, networking, but two, aligning and attaching yourself to people who are where you want to be. And so I took that adage and really applied it to my life. And then when it was my turn to help guide others down a path, I, took that opportunity and leaned into that purpose again, if you will. So, mentorship is something that, again, that I am passionate about and really take seriously. And that speaks to all the thousands of young people that I've been able to mentor and help get to their destination over the years.
Yes, and those thousands of young people that you've worked with. So, mentoring and community development, I have a list of things here that you have done because
Mm-hmm.
you just have a breadth of experience, but you've given money to historically Black colleges and
Yep.
universities. Can you tell us why that's important?
So I had a close friend who was like a brother from Chicago, named Alan Raspberry, who went to FAMU with us. And on graduation night, he was hit by a drunk driver. So I started a scholarship in his name on the Directly To platform, which is Black owned by a FAMU grad, to really help, one, carry his legacy forward, but also two, make sure that we were able to support individuals that were like us, that were, maybe struggling or needed some help with their books and things like that. So we were able to, gift over $5,000 in scholarships last year to students from FAMU, Howard, Tuskegee, Dillard, Morehouse, and several other historically Black colleges. So I'm really about the HBCU experience and exposing as many young people as possible to that HBCU experience. And we actually, next week, we'll be going down to Miami for the Jackson State FAMU game, which we plan to kick their butts. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. So, why do you feel that? How is that experience at an HBCU different for a student of color than if they went to a predominantly white institution that maybe had, Black student union, but they are in the minority? What's the difference in
Yeah.
those experiences?
I think one of the most important things is the cultural significance of a historically Black college. Obviously, the history of HBCUs and what they meant to our ancestors and those who came before us, but more importantly, right now, really. There are no other institutions that can really prepare you for corporate America, entrepreneurship, or any other endeavor that you have in your life. And then again, we talked earlier about that FAMU network or that Howard network or that Morehouse network. That is unrivaled to any group of individuals graduating from a PWI. And literally, if you need anything in the world, there's a rattler for that, And so we take pride in that. We invest in each other, and we make sure that we connect the dots when it comes to our alumni networks. And so that is the thing that separates HBCUs from PWI experiences. It's the culture, and the culture is so strong. HBCU applications are at an all-time high, and it's because of what we produce. I mean, FAMU produces the most Black MBAs, the most Black PharmDs, Black attorneys, all those different type of things. So, that's something that when you're looking at an institution on where you want to continue your learning, historically Black colleges are definitely the place for our kids, at least.
Okay, great. So, you're the professional athletes that you work with.
Mm-hmm.
When they come in the door, do you have, I guess, some rules of engagement before you agree to work with someone? Because I know if if it's really important for you, for an athlete to connect to the community, if it's important for them to kind of
Mm-hmm.
go within and take care of what's inside, to help facilitate that long-term success, is everybody open to that? Can you tell us a little bit about your process?
So everybody isn't, but one of the things that I've learned over time is that you have to meet people where they are. And I'm very confident in our ability to really take them along that path to the point where they are open to that. And so, first start with what they want to do. And if they know what they want to do, that's even better. If they don't, then we have a blank canvas, if you will. And so the process is really about understanding who they are, the background they come from, and the passions that they currently have, and meeting them where they are, and then helping them fill in the gaps along the way. And, essentially that is a process that has been very successful for us, and we've been able to create long-term relationships with our clients that span even past the business aspect.
Nice. So the athletes that you work with, I'm sure, are wealthy, and community involvement is very important to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's important that those athletes take some of that wealth and put it back into the community. I see that's
Yes.
what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that critical? And particularly for the Black community, because I would imagine that many of the athletes that you work with are athletes of color.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's really important for them to understand that those good coaches that they had back in the day, or those mentors or parents that invested in them to get them to that point, no matter what the athlete's background is, that whether they came from a humble background or a wealthy background, they all had someone pour into them. And that person that poured into them is a part of the at-large community. And so you have to give back to that community. So if it's a coach, why don't we develop resources to be able to provide, for the coaching staff, or the program, the AAU program that you came out of. So it's really important to establish a rhythm of giving back, to whether it's time, whether it's mentorship, whether it's financial, to where you came from, and communities abroad, greater causes that mean much more than just yourself. And, for instance, like with Josh Okogie, he is not from Louisville. However, he was down on the ground marching for Breonna Taylor, this past May. And those are the things that are really important, understanding the gravity and the brevity of the moment, and then stepping up and providing your resources. Tobias Harris, Al McKinney, all of these guys stepped up when the community needed them the most. And so, it's really just about establishing that type of rapport, and really conveying to them, the importance of giving back to their communities. And fortunately, whether it's my NASCAR guys, golf, or any other sport, they've all been on board. I've been very lucky.
Nice. That's awesome. So health and wellness, that's something I want to move into, only
Mm-hmm.
because it's a big part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You are a yogi. So
I am.
who introduced you to yoga? When did you get into
Mm-hmm.
yoga?
So the Southside YMCA here in Chicago is like my sanctuary, if you will. And so I played basketball there up until about 2018. And I remember it was about 10 years ago, I wrenched my back really bad. And so I was doing some ancillary classes to try to keep up with my cardio. And then one of the classes got canceled. And so I was trying to figure out what I could do to, supplement my cardio, or at least some sort of workout. And so I was kind of peering into the yoga class, and one of the OGs, the old school guys, came up, was like, JC, you should try yoga. And, at the time I was like, man, I'm from the South, I'm from Englewood, I don't do yoga, dude, come on. And he was like, well, let your back hurt then. And I was like, man, my back does hurt. And so I went into the class with open eyes, and, experienced something that completely changed my life. And so that was almost 10 years ago. And last year during the pandemic, obviously everything was closed, and I was really missing the yoga experience. And so I started to, implement some of the poses and things of that nature. And I had the previous year I had been certified in Thailand to teach it, but just never tapped into it. And so then once I started to post about me doing yoga, I had some of my athletes like, hey, I need to get a session in. I kind of made yoga cool with people who weren't
Love
quite
that.
into it. And now we recently got a partnership with Gaim, which is one of the largest provider of yoga products in the world. And so it's just really about leaning into your passion, and no matter what people say, and executing, and just really understanding what your passions are. But I
That's
love yoga.
beautiful.
I do it every day, no matter what. And I have probably about 30 to 40 mats across the world. I buy mats everywhere so that I can get my yoga in.
That's beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
That's a common thread I see with successful people, just being open to something new,
Yes.
something different, no matter what
Yes.
anybody else says, right? I'm going to try
Absolutely.
this. I'm going to try this out. And
Balance is everything in anything that you do, and achieving that balance is the most important thing. And one of the things that people often chase is money when you should be chasing autonomy. And autonomy, it comes with balance, and being able to have that balance every day is everything.
wonderful. All right. So, special projects. You have a podcast called Global Entry. I want to hear
Yep.
about that. And you're in the middle of a cap raise for an organization, I think, made up of
The J
3
sleeve.
new
Yes.
grads. So, can you tell us
Yes.
about those 2 special projects and anything else you want to talk about?
For sure. So, Global Entry Podcast came about during the pandemic because, I really wanted to give people unprecedented access to my network. And essentially, if you know anything about Global Entry, you land after an international trip and you kind of bypass that line and you walk right out of customs. And so I wanted people, the people that I mentor, that I come in contact with in my network, to have access to the Rich Pauls and the Calvin Andrews and various Nico Harrisons of the world that I do business with and connect with on a regular basis, and not have to go through hoops and bounds to get guidance and jewelry, as we call it, and gems dropped on them. And so I started this podcast. I've been able to interview probably about 15 guests of exciting people, and just really help them use that platform to kind of give some information and some guidance to people who might be interested in that vertical that they're in. And then the other thing is, the J Sleeve, which is part of our inaugural product with our company, Synergy 7. And J Sleeve is a tech sleeve that tracks your makes and misses. It also has a gamification aspect that allows kids from all across the world to connect with each other and challenge each other in a game of King of the Court. But what's most significant about the J Sleeve is the social impact strategy, which allows us to go into these communities and teach kids about entrepreneurship, about tech, coding, and data analytics, and careers in and around sports. And so that's something that obviously is a common theme and common thread with me. And so Jeremy Henderson, who is our CEO, and Alvin Kennedy, who's our COO, really all came together, and we were like, yo, we want to not only connect the dots from a data analytics and tech perspective, but we want to make an impact. And so we are teaching kids about data analytics, about tech, about entrepreneurship, while selling this sleeve to the masses. So we're really excited about that. And we have some military as well as physical therapy, healthy applications to the technology coming down the pipeline. So we're ready to really gear up and accept some pretty good investors here. So
Nice, nice. Okay, so you talk a lot about social impact strategy. That's very important to you. The last 4 or 5 years, you've been a part of developing a social impact strategy for large brands such as Jordan, Amazon, McDonald's. How how did you choose to put that underneath the Brand B umbrella? And then can you
yeah,
tell us about some of those social impact strategies for those companies that you helped create?
sure. I mean, one of the things that I've learned in kind of that networking space is that a lot of these companies have robust marketing departments, but not necessarily understanding on how to activate those resources within the community to specifically move the needle on the things that their corporate strategy wants to do. And so, we started out working with B. Coleman Aviation, which is a small business, but it's the only Black-owned private jet company in the nation, owned by Elsie Higginbottom. So really advising their team on how to activate from a marketing development strategy. We've worked with McDonald's on their HBCU Give Back, where they wrote a check to FAMU as well as did a huge food activation. We've worked at, I know this is a bad word, but we worked with Amazon during I was trying to dance around that whole thing
It's
earlier. I
okay.
didn't want to say their name. But we worked with Amazon during All Star Weekend here in Chicago for an activation with the Retired Basketball Players Association, and so it's really just about taking what their deliverables are and what they want to do to impact the community, and then getting on a granular level, getting into the nooks and crannies of the community and establishing relationships that are going to help them reach their KPIs and what they want to do within the community. And so we started that because we saw that there was a need, and we've been doing it ever since. We got some great things coming down the pipeline with Jordan Brand and a few other organizations that we're really excited about.
All right. So we are at 3:30, and I think I should be getting a note from the producers here in a second saying that our time is coming to an end.
Yeah.
Jason, what would you tell your younger self, like that little boy in Englewood? What would you tell him today, like that you wish he had known then? Or what
Well, I
advice
think,
him?
well, not to get too deep into the weeds, but one of the things that it was important as I travel a lot. I've been to 64 different countries, and when I went to Ghana, I realized after being there for a couple of weeks, I was like, man, these folks aren't ever on time for anything. Like, we set a time for 3:30, they show up at 5. Like, what's this? And I finally asked one of the Asante Hennas, who is the king of Ghana, and he said, we don't believe in arriving to an event at a certain time. We believe that opportunities and events arrive to us when the universe deems it so. And so that's something that really stuck out to me. And I believe that all the things, the positive things that have come to me, arrive when the universe deems it so. And so what I would tell myself is to continue to be patient, and continue to just work hard. A lot of people think that because you work hard, you're entitled to what you're working toward. And I tell them something different. That's actually just you building up the muscle memory so that when that opportunity presents itself, you'll be ready. And so those are the things that I would share with my younger self, and just continue to just drive the agenda forward and help others and continue to make your impact known on the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. We're going to bring
Thank
you
you.
back at the end with the other guests so you can leave us with one last wonderful nugget. But for now, bye-bye. So we've got Jimmy and Gerald of Game One Active. It's an app where people can book base and sports facilities. So Jimmy and Gerald. Hi. How are you guys?
Good, good. Thank you for having us.
So my first question for you two is, since everything's kind of spins off of your product, your app, can you tell us what your product is, what makes it unique, and why do we need it?
Oh, yeah, sure. So what Game On Active is we're bringing sports online. And what that means is we're centralizing how people organize sports, book sports, and play sports. So when we first launched in 2017, we launched an app to help people organize and play pickup sports. And I think what we realized while running that app over the last 3 to 4 years was that there was an opportunity to even make it bigger and allow people to find and book affordable sports facilities. So we decided to launch a second product, which we will talk more about later down the line. But basically, that's what we are about. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys are co-founders. Can you tell us how you met? Jimmy, I think you might be on mute.
I don't think, I guess, yeah. While Jimmy fixes his audio issues, I will take this one. So how did I meet Jimmy? So I actually went to get a haircut. I was in London for work, and I was the whole time I was here, I was looking to play basketball, and I didn't know where to go. And one day I got a haircut. I was going home and I see Jimmy with a basketball head into the train station. So I stop him and ask him where he usually plays. And he hands me this card, and this card had this a link to a website. And that was sort of the first iteration of Game on Active. And so I went to the website and signed up. And I really thought it was a great idea that Jimmy had. So what I did was I went into that next game with a wireframe of what an app could look like and how how we can sort of take this to the next level. And so from that point on, we started working together.
Okay, great. So entrepreneurship isn't easy, right? It's a journey, it's a process. Jimmy, are you working now? Your sound? Can we hear you? Okay, still no sound there. So, Gerald, can you tell us what you learned so far about working with a startup or starting a startup?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing that I've learned so far is having the right team, and I think that Jimmy and I are a great pair because of our unique skill sets. More specifically, Jimmy focuses on the tech side of things. So he initially built the Android app and iOS app. And I am a product manager by trade. So I focused on the product and the product design and also marketing. So having sort of these unique skill sets allowed us to work very well together over the years and really execute on this product. So I would say having the right team is the one thing I would say, having the right team.
All right. So how have you built your team? So you and Jimmy clearly found each other. He kind of started the app. You just said that you've been a part of the product development part of the business. You have other team members. When did you acknowledge that you needed more than Jimmy and Gerald? And then how did you find those team members?
Yeah, sorry, I think I had some technical issues that hopefully that's fixed now. But like Gerald was saying, we literally met on the streets with me basically testing out the app by hosting my own basketball runs. And one day we just finished playing and we met Gerald on the street, and literally that's how we met. And actually I met my other co-founder. We used to be a team of three actually. And this is another funny story that we often tell our investors, which is the other guy, Fabrice, he started running events through the app that's kind of what he was responsible for at the time. And he met a lady who he fell in love with. And they continued playing ball and they got to know each other, better over the years. And they decided that they want to move to Singapore together. And we often joke with people that the app did so well that we lost one of our co-founders. But Gerald made a really good point though that I think we can't. I don't think it was conscious though, but I think us three, and even me and Gerald now, I think we are people sort of with like really different skill sets and quite different perspectives on how we see the world. And sometimes it does mean that Gerald and I end up disagreeing on certain things. But so far we managed to work through them. We always manage to agree to disagree, at least. But I don't know if you agree with me, Joe. I find that it's quite important that to actually have a team that actually have different opinions about things. Because I feel like that means you're less likely to make mistakes. And you're not sort of, doing groupthink where everyone's sort of the same sort of skill set, same sort of personality, and you sort of all end up making the same decision almost all the time. So I guess that's the other thing I say about building a team. But luckily we didn't end up where we are, consciously, but we ended up with a team that I think is fantastic, and we're doing fantastically. And I love working with Gerald. He's actually in London helping us out right now from New York.
Awesome. So I want to backtrack a little bit, Jimmy. How did you come up with the idea to create this app? I mean, can you give us a little bit about your journey to the creation of this app?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a story. So basically, I started my career, don't ask me why, but in investment banking. And that means, a trained engineer is spending all his life on Excel, accounting, and PowerPoint. And the hours were very, very long. So I was working 16 hours, 14 hours a day, weekends included. And a couple of years passed, and I started, like many of my peers, started to have like health problems. You're just working so hard all the time and not getting enough rest. And nothing could quite get me out of this funk. And I just started feeling really lethargic all the time. It so happens just a friend of mine at the time knew a friend who had this basketball run somewhere sort of nearish where I live. And he invited me along one day. And I went, and I used to board all the time, like when I was young. Every day I'd be on the basketball court. And this is back in Hong Kong, when you're playing on concrete in the 30-degree sun every single day. And it sort of just rekindled my love for playing sports. And I mean, I think it's needless to say that there's obviously health benefits from playing sports, and just, playing team sports and having people around you who are sort of pushing you on, making you work harder, and you sort of don't want to let your team down. And I enjoyed it so much, and it made such a difference to the quality of my life that I thought, how is it that in this day and age when you can book a holiday, you can order pizza, you can pretty much do anything and buy anything with your phone, you basically can't find sports where you can just go and show up and play on a phone. It just doesn't exist. There are many, many prior attempts at it, but no one's quite figured it out. And that sort of stuck with me for a long, long time. And it's sort of what got me starting Game On, really.
Okay, awesome. So I love that, you were in a completely different field than what you were trained to do. You were a trained engineer, but you were working in banking, but you were still open to creating or solving a problem. You noticed a problem in your environment, in your community rather, and you were like, I think I can create an app for this. So it sounds like, you have a knack for seeing opportunity in a situation and for making necessary pivots to take advantage of that opportunity. And when we talked before, we kind of talked about the importance of pivoting, being able to pivot when you're an entrepreneur. Can you talk a bit about pivoting, why that's important, how you two have had to pivot to as you're building Game On Active?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've got a couple of things to say in sort of through my meandering experience. And yeah, like we chatted before, Rhonda, I've sort of had a career that's sort of quite diverse. I trained as an engineer. I worked in finance for many years. I worked in sort of quantitative finance for a bit longer. And then most recently, I've been working in data science and data analytics as well. And I found one thing that has really helped on my sort of entrepreneurship journey is having learned all these things in the past and just sort of having the experience knowing that I need to sort of get to that goal. And to do that, there's a couple of things that I need to be able to do, some of which you might have done before, a lot of which, if you're going down the entrepreneur route, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to have to do that you've never done before. And I think having worked in many different jobs and studied quite widely, I think it's really helped me to have picked up these skills along the way. And they come in handy in like really unexpected times. So that's one thing I'd say. And the other thing I say is definitely do your research and figure out if you have an idea. Having the idea bit is the easy bit. I always say to people, executing it is much, much, much harder. So you're going to be working really hard. You're not going to want to waste time. So you want to do your research and make sure you know what the market is that you're going into. And once you have this idea, from my own experience, I think you go and pitch the heck out of your friends and family, because it's actually really hard to get an honest opinion from people when it comes to like an idea around business. And I find that people who care about you, who love you, are the ones who are most likely to give you honest feedback, and they're also the ones who are most likely to say things that you don't want to hear. But if you can take that on the chin, and you've thought through what people have honestly given you in terms of their opinions, and you still think that the idea is worth pursuing, then go for it.
Nice. Okay, thank you. So Gerald, you're the product guy, right? So
Yeah.
when you're pitching this product to investors, how do you tell them that your product is unique? Like, what's the mark? Because Jimmy mentioned that people have tried to create this before, but unsuccessfully, and you all are clearly, being successful. Tell us why your product works and why theirs did not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing is we are so for the first product, which is our mobile app, we are focusing on one sport at the moment, which is basketball. What some of our competitors have done in the past was focus on all sports, right? And when you do that, you spread yourself a little thin, and you can really sort of curate an experience for all sports. So you have to start with one and then eventually scale out to the other. So that's one thing that makes us different. And I think that we also we started in one of the hardest markets to play basketball. I think basketball is about 15th on the list as the most popular sport in London, or the UK in general. So but we found a product market fit because we have created this big community of basketball players in London that's never been created before, and that's something that none of our competitors have done, right? So that's what makes us unique. And then on top of that, we're launching a second product that connects our ecosystem, which essentially allows people to book sports facilities, and on top of that, organize games and find people and network. So that's also another unique feature that most of our competitors don't have.
How many users do you currently have?
We have over 6,000 users in London only, mostly in London.
Nice. Gerald, you're in London now, right? Both of you?
Yeah.
So Gerald, where are you from? Where are you each from? Because I don't think either one of you are from London.
Yeah, I'm from New York. I grew up in Brooklyn, but as I mentioned, I actually took a year to work in London because I wanted to kind of get an international experience, if that makes sense, and that's kind of how this transpired, and into me meeting Jimmy and et cetera. But ever since, London has been kind of a second home in a sense.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in Hong Kong and moved to the UK when I was 14, and went to boarding school and ended up going to university, and then I found a job, and then for some reason I've decided that I'd like to stay in London. I just love the city so much. It's one of those rare places, even though I'm from Hong Kong, where I feel like communities are people from different backgrounds and different countries genuinely do mix and do hang out. And even places in like Hong Kong, that doesn't quite happen as much. But yeah, neither of us are from London, but I live in London and Gerald's visiting at the moment.
Okay. So let's move into quickly talking about mentorship, some of the topics that we covered with our other guest. No successful person makes it through life without a mentor. Neither does a successful entrepreneur. So can you tell us a bit about mentors and your life with respect to Game On Active?
Yeah, sure. I think for me personally, my biggest mentor is my uncle. He's an entrepreneur himself, and he's sort of built several businesses throughout his days. So I oftentimes go to him a lot for advice, and even sometimes just bounce ideas off of him. But I think I think I'm often tapping into my network to find people for help. That makes sense. I mean, sometimes we're all human, and sometimes you don't know everything. And so if you have people in your circle that know something more than you do, I think it's very important to tap into that network or tap that person and ask for advice. And I think, to me, that's what the essence of mentorship is, right? So I would say, if in general, I think, utilize your network and use that to get from step A to step B.
Excellent. So community development. How is Game On Active engaging with the London community in various ways, I'm sure? Maybe promoting Game On Active, maybe providing the resource to kids, in your community. Can you talk to us a bit about that?
Sure. Maybe I could start, Gerald. So we've been like Gerald was saying, we've been in London for about 4 years now. And as he was saying, we probably picked the most difficult sport to do this in, which is basketball. I don't know if you folks know, even though basketball is probably one of the most popular sports in the whole world, it's not as popular in the UK as one might expect. And since we've launched, as Gerald was saying, we now have about 6,000 users on the app, and we met all sorts of people from all walks of life who I had no idea existed, who were desperate to play basketball. Like there are people like me who are professionals who basically just want friendly but yet competitive runs every now and then that they can go to. I met through these 4 years a lot of ladies who really, really wanted to get into basketball, but I think that community is still really underserved in London, and we've been trying to, we're actually working on that project that Jared's looking after to try and help get that going a little bit more in London. We've met a lot of parents who want to put their kids into basketball training. We've met more recently a lot of adults who are looking to play potentially semi-professionally. And honestly, I did not know that these people existed in London, having lived here for so many years. And yeah, it's the app now is all about giving people opportunities to engage in the sports that they love. And a lot of them have made lifelong friends, myself included. I've been to a wedding through playing basketball. I met someone who invited me to his wedding in India. It's actually my first time in India last year, just before lockdown. And it's amazing, and certainly there's a lots of way to build communities. And I certainly think, meeting up, playing sports is definitely one really good way of building a community. And maybe Gerald can tell you a bit more about some of the more community work that's happening in East London more recently.
Yeah, I mean, I think to quickly add to that, so one of the things that we've noticed since launching this app is we've created sort of a safe space for people, especially people of color in London. And what we found is a lot of young adults of color are coming to our games and using that as a way to stay off the streets, right? So now they have something to do. So we have games throughout the week, and oftentimes they will come to these games for hours and just play, right? And just network and meet other kids from other sides of parts of London. So we're sort of creating these sort of small bubbles and communities around it. It's really helping the overall community engagement as well as also mental health, and because these people are making new friends every game they come to. So that's really that's been super helpful as well.
That's amazing. So you not only have an app who, you obviously have a financial reason for creating it, but it's also by default kind of building community within London and providing a positive space for kids to play, basketball. I'm curious, why would you choose basketball when it's so far down on the popularity list in London? What was the strategy behind that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we wanted to really test this idea here because we both love basketball, so it naturally made sense for us to start with that, right? And two, I think that we know if we can make it work here, we can make it work anywhere globally, and we plan on scaling globally at some point. So the fact that we've found a sort of a product market fit at the moment is super exciting for us because we know that if we scale out to the US, for example, we can get a lot more users there because there's a more of an appetite there for basketball. And we also plan to scale it to other sports as well. But we want to initially test this idea with the sport that we love.
Okay.
Yeah, like Gerald said, I just love basketball, and like Gerald mentioned before, a lot of prior attempts try to cater to all sports everywhere in the world from the get-go. And we've looked at those attempts, and we basically realized you're basically spreading yourself really thin in terms of, well, one, your marketing budget, and also two, in terms of if you were marketing the app to all players of all sports, it's very hard to create what we internally say like meaningful connections. So if someone was to download the app and he's interested in badminton, but actually you only have people running basketball games, he's going to be quite turned off and is unlikely to open the app ever again. So we realized quite early on we want to focus on one sport. And I guess it's going to have to be basketball, one, because we all love play basketball, and two, because we know that basketball is so underserved in London, we really wanted to make a difference. And we thought if we can do it in this environment where this sport is it's not so well supported, if we can make it work here, then there's a fairly good chance we can make it work in other sports in other cities, basically.
Wonderful. So lastly, special projects. You've got a pre-seed fundraise that that happened recently. Can you tell us about that? Operator platform, that's also something else listed underneath special projects.
Yeah.
Before we can wrap up.
Yeah, if I can rewind slightly back in time into late 2019, before this thing called COVID-19 happened, Gerald and I basically sat down in London again. He was visiting again at the time. The app was already growing quite fast. I think we were at about 4,000 users at the time, and there were games going on every day already. And we sat down actually to think about how do we grow the app, right? And what we realized was talking to people who were using the app. There's a lot of people who are sitting on the sideline thinking, I don't want to have to travel an hour to go and play basketball in central London. I actually want to play nearer where I live. And we realized there were loads and loads of people who, if they had a way to book sports halls, they would basically just book a court and run their own games locally. And they got a couple of friends who live near where they live, and they reckon they can get games going. And I think that's when Gerald and I realized actually, and to your point earlier as well about why we think we are unique, is that no one has realized that actually to solve this problem we're trying to solve, not only do you need a way for people to find events, which is what we've got going already, you also need to help people get the events up and running, and that includes being able to book a sports hall. And most prior attempts try to solve either one problem or the other. And we basically had a light bulb moment, if you would, and realized that you need to solve both problems if you're going to get the thing scaling quickly. And then we quickly realized that to do that, we're going to have to raise a little bit of funding to get some external help, because so far, Gerald's been looking after the product and I've been looking after technology, and I've pretty much written every single line of code in Game On so far. And COVID-19 then happened, and we shelved all our plans to raise funding until late last year. And despite everyone's advice not to, late 2020, just as London was being plunged into another lockdown, we decided to just go for it, basically. We think that the situation's under control, and in 2021, we're probably going to come back out and start boarding again. And so, yeah, I mean, we decided to go for it. It was hard work, as I'm sure Gerald would say to you. But we raised our pre-seed round. We closed around February this year. And since then, we've been working flat out to build what we call the operator platform, which is that Airbnb for sports hall that would allow people to book a sports hall directly without having to get on the phone or do email ping-pongs. And they can see clearly what's available and just book. In a few clicks, they can get a call booked, basically. And I think that's a nice lead into talking about the operator platform for Gerald.
Yeah, and I'll try to make this quick because I know we got a few minutes left. But yeah, so we're actually launching an operator platform, as Jimmy mentioned, in August, and actually in 2 weeks. It's the first MVP for us, and we are actually building in the operator platform in Google Flutter, which is, it's very fitting for this setting, I guess. And so, yes, but we're launching in 2 weeks, and we're hoping to get some our first operators on and first clients on to help out, to help sort of build and scale this out. And again, as Jimmy mentioned, it's a platform booking management platform that allows sports facilities to manage, take in bookings, receive bookings, and manage bookings that they get for their sports facilities. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you both. Congratulations on creating an app that works and works well. I'm excited to watch you all grow and develop even more. And I think it's awesome that you created something that's also having a positive impact on the community in various ways. So now we're going to switch to get last words from each of our guests, 15 seconds each. Jason, what would you like to leave everyone with today? Can't hear you.
I said each day presents an opportunity to do better and get better. And as long as we're working toward that and impacting others, then we're on the right track. and really always seek to create the balance that you want. You know, we don't seek balance over here, we create it. So, you know, if you have balance and you're impacting others and you're getting better, you figured it out.
Gerald.
Yes. So for me, I would say practice consistency, practice better habits, and I would say that tap into your network. You know, find people who have goals that align with yours and work with them. You know, and you know, trust the process and enjoy the process.
And for me, I always say this, we all work at least 5 days out of 7 days that we are alive for. So you better pick something that you really care about if you're going to work so hard on it. And the only other thing I'll say is Game on Active is hopefully coming to the US at some point. And if you, like us, believe in the power of playing sports and the communities that come out of playing sports, keep an eye out for us. We're coming for you.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for being on today. I really enjoyed engaging with each of you, learning about your companies, your businesses, Brand B Sports and Game On Active. I wish you well, and thank you everybody out there in Google World for tuning in. Reach out to these guys, you know, send out encouraging words, ask them questions, invest in their companies, whatever. And I hope you all have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much for having me.